Right, we're standing here in Zimbabwe, just outside Harare, and we're with Mr. John Robertson, economic consultant, well-known economic consultant, who I, by the way, have always had a high regard for and respect for. Gave a talk this morning, John. There was a pretty depressing talk. I sometimes think down in South Africa that the manufacturers are very willing to come into Zimbabwe with new product. But is that a dream world? It seems there's a huge affordability and economic problem. Yeah?
There is a serious problem with funding. The banks haven't got very much money, and most of the people who'd like to borrow money can't get the reasonable terms that they need. Interest rates are very, very high, and this is forcing most of the people in the business to import second-hand vehicles. So we're getting a lot of those from all over the world, but many of them coming in as left-hand drive vehicles from countries like the United States. And these low-cost and second-hand vehicles, I think, are leading us to problems because so many of the companies are in need of brand new equipment that would be much more reliable. So those are cost elements which are probably affecting the efficiency of the industry. And for that reason, I think there are many South African operators moving stuff into the country because the local contractors are unable to carry the burden of imports needed now that we are producing so little of our own product. Previously the transporters were needed to move very large tonnages from Zimbabwe because we were producing much more than we are these days. So now the traffic is in the other direction.
Right, so you also sketched out a pretty dismal picture in terms of growth, commodities, mining, agriculture, all on the decline. What's the future here, John?
Well, we do need policy changes. If we get those and people can start using land as collateral for bank loans, it wouldn't be long before we are back onto a growth path. But if we don't get the policy changes we need, it could take quite a bit longer. And so it's up to the politicians.
So it starts with the politicians.
It does, definitely.
Does business have an input into the political saying here?
The business sector seems very cautious, and I think it's because so often in the past the politicians have turned hostile to the business sector when they have seen that they're trying to gain control. In fact, the government policies right now, indigenization, is designed to take control from the business sector and give it to government. Because government is wanting 51% of all the companies to be in the hands of indigenous people who will be much more inclined to follow government instructions. And these foreign investors, they believe, are too independent, and if they are prosperous as well, they might become so influential that they start interfering with government's authority. And they see this as a contest for authority. The more authority the business sector has, they think, the less authority government has. So it is a contest, and it's an absurd way to look at things because we're all in this together, and of course everybody's prosperity depends on everybody working properly together. So the future will get us there, but I think it'll get us there much more quickly if the policy changes are made very soon.
Okay, in the meantime, what I have as a suggestion is that perhaps we come in from South Africa with the road traffic management system to improve standards and quality with what is existing in the country.
Right.
Would that be practical, John? Would that be a practical sort of way of helping instead of saying we're going to cram in with new technology, trucks, and improve efficiencies?
Well, I think the administrative background that you can work with here is good. And the people that you will be working with will be very, very happy to follow the ideas, the suggestions for improving efficiency and improving quality. But it does come down to a funding exercise as well. We have to have access to much larger sums of money at much lower rates of interest before anybody can actually get on with the job of placing orders for either the new vehicles or even the spares to properly maintain the ones they've got. And in both cases, these are serious constraints which are affecting industry in every sector, not just the transport sector.
Right, and just to explain that, the RTMC system is not it's a self-voluntary system, and often for the larger companies like we've seen here, Swift, we're standing next to a lovely big curtain-sider Interlink here. They probably have good systems in place already, and it's formalizing those systems in procedures and then passing those on to the smaller guys who don't have any systems. So it's quite a cheap way of getting quality up. That could be a good idea.
I think you'd find them very, very supportive of all the initiatives you can take to help them become more efficient. and a very keen bunch and very, very well trained. I think we do have a very good infrastructure of skilled people here.
Well, John, thank you so much, and I'm going to say this live. I've always admired and respected you. I think you're a very knowledgeable man, an astute man, and a reputable man, an honest man, and a very brave man for always speaking out, speaking your name based on facts, speaking your thoughts based on facts. And thank you so much for being with us, and thanks so much for doing this interview. And to South Africa, John, keep it on. Keep it going.
Thank you very, very much. You're very kind.
God bless you.
Thank you.